Our house is an almost 200-year-old farmhouse, and I wanted to add character back into the kitchen when we renovated it. I was really hoping we'd find some old beams when we tore it down that we could reuse, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. We also didn't have any luck finding beams for sale that were the right fit. So we moved on to making our own. With this project, we had to get just the right look with distressing new pine boards to create an authentic old beam look. And we also had to find the perfect stain color, which is really a struggle for me. I'm never happy with stain choices and just want real aged wood. But after a lot of trial and error, I feel like we finally found the perfect combination for getting the color I've been wanting. We used 1x6 pine boards, 3 boards for each beam. We found it easier to distress each board before assembling the beam. We used a hatchet to make the hand-hewn marks, chopping at an angle. While we didn't measure out specific spacing for the hatchet marks, we did try to keep a little bit of a pattern since old beams typically look like that. Next, we went back over the board with the hatchet, laying the hatchet flat against the wood, scraping off the chips sticking up. Then we used a power planer to give the wood more texture. Next, we used a chisel to create the look of cracks or splits in the wood. You don't want to add too many of these marks. Then we used a brush tool to give more texture to the board. Next, we used a circular saw with a guide to cut the 45-degree angle on the edge of the board for attaching the boards together. On the bottom board, which will have both edges cut at an angle, we used a table saw to cut the second 45-degree angle since the guide on the circular saw wouldn't have worked well with one side already being cut. Place the bottom board on spacers that are the same height as the side boards. Spread wood glue along the cut angle of the board. Set the sideboard in place and use a nail gun to attach it to the bottom board. Next, we use the round side of a screwdriver to round it over and close any gaps. Let that dry and repeat on the other side. Next, we used an orbital sander to sand down the beam and round the edges slightly. Next, we applied clear water-based polyurethane on all of the boards. Once that was dry, we applied a coat of early American stain. Make sure to keep wiping it off as you go so it doesn't streak. Let that dry and then you're ready to install them. As you can see from the decor in the dining room, we did this back in December. It was shortly after Mike's fall and shoulder injury, so when Zach was home for Christmas, we had him and Lincoln help put the beam up. To put up our beams, we attached wood to the ceiling that we then attached the beams to. First, we measured and marked where we wanted the beam to go. Next, we drew a line connecting those marks with a straight edge. Then we used a stud finder to locate the studs in the ceiling where we would be attaching the boards to. Then we attached boards to the ceiling using screws. Make sure the beam is cut to length and slide it into place. This part will require some helpers, and it should be a super tight fit wall to wall, so it might take a little work to wedge it into place. And then your last step is just going to be nailing the beam to the boards that are attached to the ceiling.